I am Matt, and apparently Trump's approval rating has taken a nosedive. I'm not surprised with everything going on at the minute. Seems like America is a very divided nation. A lot of people are thinking all these ICE raids are a good thing. People are thinking they're a bad thing. There's always going to be people on both sides of the fence there. The Epstein files just won't go away, and I think that's where most of this disapproval comes from. Let's have a look.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where right and left come to be reasonable. My pop was even more right about America being a tale of two cities than he knew when he gave his famous speech in 1984. And I hope the Democrats go back and look at it, or whatever they're going to call themselves with this new populist movement, because where you guys are your best and you reach the most people who need the most help from government in this country was what he spelled out for you all those years ago. It's more true today. The chasm between the haves and the don't have enoughs is worse than ever. Affordability is real. The idea of becoming socialistic to cure it is crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. There's basically a financial analyst in Britain. I'll see if I can find the clip, but I think he was on Piers Morgan, and he explained that what people had between, say, the 60s, 70s, 80s, where you could have a salary, support your family, and buy a house, is not normal. There's always been this big divide between the wealthy and the poor, and even if you class yourself as middle class, there's still a massive divide between the rich and the people who have and the people who don't have, and it's getting even bigger. It's getting massively bigger.
The rich are eating the middle class, and they are eating the government. And in this country, we're shutting down the welfare state, we're shutting down the healthcare, education's collapsing, the police system is collapsing, local youth services are collapsing. And the rich are eating us alive. Just look at the numbers. In the first year of COVID, the average US billionaire doubled their wealth in 1 year. My dad lived in an age where you could work a regular job and support a family. And, I went to school with kids who'd recently come over from Pakistan, working in shops, being able to buy houses and raise families and accumulate wealth. It was possible 20, 30 years ago, and we're losing that. This economic situation does not get better. It can get better if we deal with the inequality, if we deal with the tax system. But at the moment, we have a tax system that makes you pay 40% and makes Elon Musk pay nothing. And Elon Musk's kids are going to own the houses that your kids need, and your kids will be poor.
But it's worse than that. We're not just what my father lamented look at Andrew behind him. See him there? Look how young he was. Anyway, what my father lamented about Reagan's shining city on the hill, and that there was another city that was in the shadows where the glitter didn't show. We have now transcended metaphor. We literally have two different realities. We have two different realities, okay? You have the majority in this country, which has clear and specific concerns that are very much in play, but those in positions of power in the media and the political class are determined to distract from the interests of the many with fringe interests of the few.
Well, is he talking about the UAP hearings, which are coming? Because I think even the UAP hearings are not distracting anything from the truth. Because let's face it, if you ask the general public out there at the moment about UFOs, like, do you believe they're real? They might go, yeah, I think alien life exists. If aliens showed up in the White House lawn tomorrow, would it change anything for you? They're probably going, no. I've still got to go to work, still got to pay the bills, still got to try to feed the kids. So I don't think the general public are going to be distracted by other things. I just think there's a trust issue. If you come out and think, this president's going to release all these files, and then turns around and say, it's a nothing burger, we're not releasing anything, you go, right, okay. There's obviously this breakdown because the general public, in the most cases, think there's something to the Epstein list. There's files that prove that there's other perpetrators that only 2 people have been sent to prison for, yet there's hundreds of victims and there's no other perpetrators. And then Trump comes out and says, you're still talking about Epstein? You're going to lose approval. And anything else is going to be looked at as a distraction.
mostly scandal, most recently Epstein and Russiagate, okay? And I can prove the disconnect. Do you want to know what matters most to the most people in this country? Not looking back, but fears forward. The S&P just posted its 5th straight record close this week. I don't even know if you heard that, even though 6 out of 10 of us have investments in the stock market.
Yeah, but the general public don't. The general public is struggling to pay the bills. They're not sitting there playing the stock market. So when he's saying like the S&P had this closure, you ask what normal people what the S&P is, they'll go, "I'm not got a fucking clue. I don't have a clue," because they don't have abundance of money to play the stock market on top of paying all the bills. So the general public, I don't think, are going to really care about that.
Way or another, right? But we're not talking about it. Why? Well, it's not scandalous. But I'll tell you what, it matters more, and not just because the president and the administration should be talking about it because it's good for them. It's a good data point. I'm more about Main Street than I am about Wall Street, and that's why the higher the market goes, the more these parallel concerns go about there being a collapse because of tariff deadlines that are looming and that there are nowhere near the deals that were promised. The overall trade deficit has actually gotten worse, if you see it as a bad thing to begin with. And next week, we will see major changes to tariffs and the economy with Trump's August 1st tariff deadline. And people are very worried about it. But we're not talking about it. Why? Because of Russiagate and Epstein and other distractions for the pod people. All right? Look, promising 90 deals in 90 days, that's...
I don't know what he means by pod people. Podcasters? Pod people on podcasts talking about binge stuff. I love UFOs. It's escapism. The fact that I look for paranormal things or UFOs, UAPs as they're called nowadays, it's because I want to realise that there's something more to the reality than currently is. Because if someone said there's no other life out there, ghosts don't exist, Bigfoot doesn't exist, fully agree with them on that one. Then this is what you've got. This is your reality, and there's nothing more. Imagine the dejection most people go through. So, yeah. I mean, he said it's all a distraction, but at the end of the day, sit down with someone who's just a 9-to-5er who's struggling to pay the bills at the minute to say, "Are you worried about the S&P 500?" I'll go, "How's that?"
Like I'll end the war in Russia tomorrow, I'll end the war in Israel. I count on the hyperbole, okay? Liberation Day tariffs. It was never going to happen, but they're not even close. And the question...
Although I do find it a little bit funny that he's preaching about these fringe topics and distractions on a channel that has been front and centre of the UAP sort of topic for a number of years now. All fringe.
The question becomes, what happens with the uncertainty?
And still talking about the Epstein files, because I did a video with him talking about the Epstein approvals not long ago.
I don't fault the administration for trying to make better deals for American workers. It should have happened before this administration. Republicans then passed the big, beautiful bill. They get the tax cuts that people voted on, but who's getting the benefit? And who's paying for that benefit? I'm getting the benefit, the top of the tax brackets, and I'm getting it by a lot. And who's paying for it? Because they're not going to pay for themselves, and if they say that's true, it has never been true. They did not pay for themselves the last time. Do a quick Google search, get 4 or 5 different sources, come back to me, you'll see I'm right. I'm telling you who's paying. The people who needed the relief the most and who can afford any more strain the least. That's who's footing the bill.
It's always been the way. Always been the way. Tax the poor, feed the rich.
Trump won this election in big measure because people were disgusted by what seemed to be the lack of security at the southern border. But there...
No, I don't think it's just one thing, to be honest. I think it's a concerted effort to try and put him in prison, a concerted effort to try and smear him left, right, and centre, came through that. Then he promised that he would sort out the border, and he is. And he's getting smeared for that now as well from both sides. He was elected on the promise that I will deport the illegal aliens, the criminals. Tries to do that, and people from both sides start going at him. So you can't win on that one. But I think the tipping point, the real tipping point, was the fact that, well, there was two things. You had Biden, who just, I don't think he was mentally there. You had that party trying to prop him up. Kamala Harris just seemed to keep putting on weird accents everywhere she went, as though she was an actress playing a role. But then when you try to kill Trump, and the conspiracy theorists are out there, like, oh, you know, like they only shot him or they didn't shoot him. It's like you got somebody who got shot, and you got somebody in the crowd who got killed as part of that. So it's disgusting to say that it was a cover up. But you got Trump trying to get killed, basically trying to get assassinated live on camera, and he stood there with the iconic picture, which will go down in history, of him going fight and win after being shot in the ear. I think that was a tipping point.
There's been an overcorrection, and we should be discussing ICE and the policy of who gets deported and how. It is wrong that the men and women who work for ICE have to live in fear and cover themselves. It is wrong that people who are enforcing the law should be covered and not easily marked and not easily announced and identified.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you see things like George Orwell's 1984. You know, you see these people in masks coming after your citizens, and you look at it from an outsider looking in, and you go, God, this doesn't look right. But then they're getting threatened. They're getting, like, the families being threatened. They're in neighborhoods where, you know, imagine they come home and all of a sudden the families are being threatened, the houses are getting burgled or firebombed. So I can understand completely, because of what's happening in the response to the ICE raids, why they keep their faces covered. I bloody would as well.
But more important than any of it is what our president has already acknowledged he knows more than once. Not everybody who enters the wrong way is the same.
No, there are people who came into the country illegally, into America, who grafted, built a life for themselves, built a life for the kids, and they were working 60 hours a week, minimum wage maybe, and they went about and they obeyed the law and they were good citizens. But you potentially still was illegal. You were there illegally. You went into a country illegally, knowing you did that, and you stayed there for maybe 20 years illegally, and at no point did you try to get legal citizenship. So you can't really complain going, well, I've been here obeying the law and working and paying my taxes for 20 years. It's like, yeah, but you had 20 years to get legal citizenship. You didn't. You knew you were breaking the law, and that means you get deported, because that's what the law states. So it's harrowing, and it's, you know, it's a shame for those families, but you broke the law, and you knew what the law was.
And instead of these images, this is not what we need in America. This isn't making us more safe. It's making us more scared. Polls show most Americans think ICE is going too far. And I'm not even going to talk about foreign policy, okay? Because we have enough big ticket issues at home that nobody really wants to deal with. And I'm telling you, I can prove it. This isn't me saying it. It's not how I feel about it. I'm at the mercy of the news cycle as much as anybody. I can't not talk about what everybody else is talking about.
Well, there's going too far, and there's not doing enough. I mean, Trump was elected on that promise, right? And he's gone out there, bing bang bosh, get out there, start deporting the illegals, start deporting the criminals, and he's doing that. He's got 4 years in the chair. He's probably not going to get another crack at it, if we're honest. And he's like, I'm going to do what I need to do now with the tariffs, with ICE, with other things that he's supposedly coming out and saying these days. So it's going to go big. You're going to go big because you've got 4 years to sort the shit out. You can't go, right, we're going to plan it for the next year, and then we're going to start slowly, And then by that point, he's out, and then it all changes again. So he's tried to do in 4 years what he was promised to do as part of his election campaign. Is he doing it right? I don't know.
You lose the audience. You got to seem like you're plugged in. But if we look at what you want, you see that you don't want this. You don't want Epstein and scandals. Look, is there a moral imperative to find out if people with influence got away with hurting kids? Of course. But I think that was always a false promise, sold on podcasts to make people popular. And it worked. But now the Trump administration has to own it. And that's about the people around the president even more so than him. And the polls show it, a new Gallup poll, all right? Trump went from having a 47% approval rating in January to 37. Why? Really independence, because the bases are locked in, right? The left hates him, the right loves him, period. It's the fastest growing part of the electorate, the ones that NewsNation is designed for, okay? Critical thinking, independent people, non-Democrat or Republican or whatever they are now. And the reason is, I'm worried about overall immigration policy and ICE. I'm worried about the economy and the tariffs and what's going to happen. I'm worried about what it means for trade and how that's going to redound back to me in pricing. And I'm worried about the budget. And the big, beautiful bill hurt the debt and the deficit, which were supposed to be the biggest selling points for change fiscally in this administration. Okay? The largest voting bloc in the country doesn't want to talk Epstein, doesn't want to look back at Russiagate and have another round of lawfare. And you know who should care about this the most? The President of the United States, because he actually has a solid argument to make to these people that he is trying, especially if he makes the adjustment to his ICE policy that I think he is considering making. In January,
It's kind of a win. Because if he comes out now and says, I'm making a change to ICE policy, we're going to be a little bit more selective in terms of what we're doing in terms of the raids, people who get deported. I mean, they've got criminals off the streets, real criminals. I mean, that's just a fact, right? But they've also taken people who weren't, well, they did break the law, but you know what I mean? They weren't out there selling drugs or committing crimes. They were just basically there illegally, and they were cracking on with their lives and building their lives for their families. But you got to look at those cases and go, should we be doing a full sweep, or should we be looking at, you know, just the cases of criminals? And in some cases, people was trying to stop them deporting criminals. They would try to make sure that ICE notified people when ICE was in their neighborhoods or in near proximity. So they were going out and saying, "Oh, they're here. Make sure everyone's locked up," and get out there and start throwing bricks and stuff at them. So I don't think Trump can win in this situation. I don't think he can. I think he's got to go down and say, at the end of the 4 years, I did what I was elected to do. People didn't like it. Fair enough.
nearly half of independents approved of Trump. Today, it's less than a third. And no, it's
I don't think it's ICE. I think it's Epstein. I think since Trump came out and doubled down on Epstein, saying, "Yeah, there's nothing to see here," that went down massively. If he came out and said, "We're working on it, guys, and we're going to be releasing stuff. Don't you worry. This isn't going away," I reckon that approval rating will be double.
It's not because he hasn't turned over the Epstein files to the extent that they even exist. And yes, I believe that the president should instruct the AG and Kash Patel to put out whatever they can. And the idea that it's nothing is absurd. But 90% of Republicans are always going to be with him. All right? And only 5% of Democrats. So forget these people. It's the independents. That's who he should be playing to if he cares about legacy and about midterms. And it's all about big ticket items for them. That's why the number has gone down. We're too distracted from those things. So even if he has a case to make, it's not being made. Transparency matters. I know I got to keep saying it because these savages that I'm competing with on social media take little pieces of things and twist it. So I keep saying it. I'm not saying cover for Epstein. Of course it matters. Put it out. It's been poorly handled. But, that's all we're talking about. And there are things that matter more to a lot more people. But I have to cover Epstein because the president of the United States today said this.
People should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, Jeffrey Epstein, I have nothing to do with the guy.
You can't throw shade without evidence. That's what Trump does a lot of. I've got nothing to do with the guy. Release the files. It's Bill Clinton and Larry Summers. Larry Summers being, I think, the president of Harvard. Release the files. The fact that you come out and say there's nothing to it, and now you're coming out saying, yeah, but there's people who are complicit, and two of those people are two people that you're butting heads with. And Barack Obama leading a coup, which did another video on that, which doesn't sound good. That sitting president would try to smear another one who's, yeah. Anyway, it's not good. But release the damn files.
For a second there, I thought our president was going full Nino Brown from New Jack City. I'm taking everybody with me. I don't think that's what it is. I don't believe that there is any real connection between the president and all of the ugly stuff that Jeffrey Epstein did. I do not think it would have stayed a secret. It certainly wouldn't have stayed.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the files were there before Trump was elected. So Biden would have chomped at the bit, and Harris would have loved to have come out and said, look at all this evidence that Trump is complicit with Epstein. The fact that they didn't probably speaks volumes.
A secret about Clinton or Summers, who cares about him? But any of these guys, I believe if there was a case to make, if there were a client list, they would have done it. The idea that these people get protected, I think the feds love scalps. They love bold-faced names. Why do you think they went after Martha Stewart so hard for such penny ante inside trading? Because they like the bold-faced names. I don't buy it. I don't think the lack of transparency is because Trump is dirty. He would have never surrounded himself with people who are Epstein obsessed. And I think this is a waste of our time. Put out whatever you have. At some point, they're going to have to explain that people who the president put trust in broke your trust. Because there is no client list. They're not going to reveal for you the deep state that protected the powerful people who were pedophiles. And it turns out they were right about that non-existent basement under the pizzeria in the middle of nowhere. This is nonsense. It's BS. And I agree, you are right to be morally offended that the wealthy and privileged get away with attacking children. But if it's not there, it's not there, okay? And I think it's more important that somebody at some point say, I'd rather argue about the President of the United States and his administration on the issues that matter the most to the many. What's the economy impact going to be from these tariffs? Are there going to be deals or not? Has he made the numbers too?
This sounds like a distraction as well, to be honest. There's victims. They've come out and said, we've identified loads and loads and loads of victims. Get them to testify then. Testify, name names, and then do what you always do. You investigate, you go through the courts, so you decide whether there's a case to hear or not. But it doesn't seem like they want to do that either. So the trust is going to be broken on both sides, to be honest. The fact that they try to sweep the Epstein list under the carpet, and they keep making it out like podcasters and people are going, well, we just want names, we want scalps, we just want famous people to go down so we can make some content out of it. I don't think that's the case. There's victims who are not getting justice. The one victim that was quite prominent in this was the one who, and I'm really sorry, I don't have the name on the top of my head, but the one who was pictured with Prince Andrew, who sadly took her own life a couple of months ago. So, where's the rest of the victims? They keep finding victims, but they don't find perpetrators.
high? Are we seeing inflation? What is the distribution that we're seeing of benefits from this bill? These are the conversations we should be having. Not, is Bill Clinton a pedophile?
Sounds like a conversation we should be having. If the president of the United States is saying that former president of the United States was complicit with a known sex trafficker and sex offender, then that needs to be investigated, not just, oh, well, never mind. Let's talk about the tariffs. Let's talk about, ICE raids. Sorry, but I don't think it's going to go away, and I don't think it should go away. We've not seen anybody other than Maxwell and Epstein in prison. And I'm not even sure Epstein's dead. I did another video on that. I know it's conspiracy theorist 101, but just seems to be a lot of spurious things in that. Anyway, let me know what you think. What's your approval on Trump? Me personally, I think he's doing what he was elected to do. Is he doing it in the right way? I don't know. Not close enough to the US to say one way or the other. But I wouldn't say everything's just a distraction. I think it's just all one big melting pot. Lies, deception, and mistrust. Anyway, you take care and I'll see you on the next one.